May 24, 2006. Belvedere Hotel, Baltimore. Workers find a hole in the roof of an abandoned conference room. Below the hole, Rey Rivera's body. He's been dead for 8 days. Investigators look up. 14 floors. 177 feet high. To reach where he landed, Rey would have had to run at 11 miles per hour. In flip-flops. And jump 43 feet horizontally. The world record for long jump is 29 feet. With professional shoes. From the ground. Rey Rivera would have beaten it. From a rooftop. In flip-flops. At 177 feet high. Physicists say, impossible. His glasses and phone were found intact next to the hole. Police say, suicide. His family says murder. 18 years later, nobody knows the truth. Rey Omar Rivera was born on June 10, 1973. His father, Angel, was in the military, so the family moved constantly. As a result, Rey and his siblings spent most of their time together. They were a very close family. Rey stood 6'5". He was athletic, charismatic, looked like an old-fashioned movie star. He'd been a water polo player and coach. He was competitive, disciplined, energetic. But his real passion was film. Rey dreamed of being a screenwriter and director. He had written, directed, and produced a short film in 2002 called The Pigeon Catcher. In 2006, he had just finished a complete screenplay called Midnight Polo, about a young Latina struggle to compete in water polo. Rey was creative. He loved David Fincher films, The Game, Fight Club, 7. He was fascinated by Stanley Kubrick, especially Eyes Wide Shut. He loved The Matrix, Meet Joe Black, The Lord of the Rings. These movies would later appear in a mysterious note that would change everything. In November 2005, Rey married Allison in Puerto Rico. They had been together for several years. Allison was also a writer. They knew each other deeply. They were meant for each other. In 2005, Rey's childhood best friend, Porter Stansberry, offered him a job in Baltimore. Porter ran Stansberry and Associates Investment Research, a subsidiary company of Agora Publishing, a massive financial publishing corporation. Rey accepted. He moved from California to Baltimore with Allison to work as a financial writer and videographer. It wasn't his dream, but it paid well. And Baltimore was temporary. Rey and Allison were planning to return to Los Angeles within a year so Rey could pursue his dream of making films. Rey also worked as an assistant coach for the men's water polo team at Johns Hopkins University. Life seemed to be in order. A good job. A happy marriage. Plans for the future. But in the weeks leading up to his disappearance, something changed. In the weeks leading up to May 16, 2006, Rey began behaving strangely. The alarm at his house went off twice on separate nights. There were no intruders. No explanation. But Rey was clearly frightened, which was completely out of character for him. Allison noticed Rey became overprotective. He didn't want her to go anywhere without him. He was nervous, restless, looking over his shoulder. One day while walking through a park, an unknown man approached them. Rey reacted with visible fear. Allison had never seen him like that before. Rey didn't tell Allison what was worrying him, just that something wasn't right. Additionally, Rey had developed a sudden interest in Freemasons. He bought the book Freemasons for Dummies. He called the local Masonic lodge to inquire about joining. This was new. Rey had never mentioned Freemasons before. On May 16, 2006, Allison left on a business trip in the morning. It was a short trip. She'd be back in a few days. Before leaving, she gave Rey an engraved antique money clip as a gift. It was one of his most treasured possessions. Rey carried it with him everywhere. That was the last time Allison saw her husband alive. On May 16, 2006, around 6:30 in the evening, Rey was home in the Northwood neighborhood of Baltimore. A colleague of Allison's, Claudia, was staying at the house as a guest. Around 6:30 in the evening, the house phone rang. Rey answered. Claudia heard Rey speak briefly. She couldn't hear what was said. She couldn't hear who was calling. Suddenly, Rey hung up. He stood up quickly. He seemed to be in a hurry, as if late for an appointment. I have to go, he said, and he rushed out of the house. He didn't tell Claudia where he was going. He didn't tell her when he'd return. He didn't take his cell phone or wallet. Rey Rivera left his house at 6:30 in the evening on May 16, 2006. He never came back. When Allison returned from her business trip a few days later, Rey wasn't home. Claudia told her about the phone call and how Rey had rushed out. Allison tried calling Rey. The phone went straight to voicemail. She tried calling his friends. Nobody had seen Rey. She tried calling Porter Stansberry, Ray's boss and his childhood best friend. Porter knew nothing. Or at least that's what he said. Days passed. No signs of Ray. No bank activity. No phone calls. No communication of any kind. On May 23rd, a week after his disappearance, Allison and her parents were driving around Baltimore searching for Ray's car. They found it parked in a parking lot on St. Paul Street, behind a building. The car was in space number 7. It had a parking ticket. According to the parking attendant, the car had likely been there since the evening of May 16th, because he found it there the morning of the 17th. The parking lot was near two important places. 1. The Belvedere Hotel, a historic hotel built in 1903, which now included condominiums, restaurants, bars, and lounges. 2. The offices of Stansberry and Associates, where Ray worked. It didn't seem unusual that Ray would be in that part of town. But where was he? Ray's family and police conducted multiple searches in the area around where his car was found. They found nothing. On May 24, 2006, 8 days after Ray disappeared, 3 of his co-workers decided to help with the search. They went to the top of the parking garage next to the Belvedere Hotel. When they looked over the edge, they saw something strange on the hotel's lower roof. There were flip-flops, a cell phone, glasses, keys, and a hole in the roof. They immediately called police. Officers arrived and asked the hotel manager to open the door to the conference room with the hole in the roof. The room had been a swimming pool in the 90s. Now it was empty, abandoned office space. It was right next to the hotel's catering service, Truffles, but nobody used that specific room. Inside, they found Rey Rivera's body on the floor. He had been there for 8 days. Ray's body was partially decomposed. It was in a prone position, face down. The autopsy revealed massive injuries. Multiple fractured ribs, broken shins on both legs, punctured lungs, lacerations throughout the body, skull damage, extreme fractures consistent with a fall from great height. The medical examiner determined Ray had suffered multiple fatal injuries. The cause of death was ruled undetermined. But this is where the story becomes impossible. Let's look at the facts. The hole in the roof was in the south annex of the Belvedere on the 2nd floor. This roof was approximately 20 feet high from the ground. The main roof of the Belvedere was 188 feet high, 14 stories. Between the edge of the main roof and the hole was a horizontal distance of 43 feet. For Ray to reach from the main roof to the hole, he would have had to 1. Run across the roof. 2. Reach a speed of 11 miles per hour. 3. Jump 43 feet horizontally. 4. All of this while wearing flip-flops. A forensic physicist consulted by independent investigators analyzed the scene. His conclusion: for Ray to reach the point of impact from the main roof, he would have needed a horizontal velocity of nearly 11 miles per hour. That's almost a sprint. The problem: the Belvedere roof has only 15 feet of running space before reaching the edge. Not enough distance to reach 11 miles per hour, especially with obstacles like air conditioning units and air ducts. Additionally, the roof's edge has a deep cornice that extends outward. To jump from the top and reach the lower south wing, a person would need a running start, a high arc, and lots of momentum. And then there's the most important fact. The world record for long jump is 29 feet 4 inches, set by Mike Powell in 1991. Mike Powell wore professional shoes. He jumped from the ground. He had a full running track to gain speed. Rey Rivera would have needed to jump 43 feet from a rooftop in flip-flops, with only 15 feet of space to run. It's physically impossible. But the impossibility doesn't end there. Next to the hole in the roof, police found Ray's flip-flops. One had a broken strap and fresh drag marks, his cell phone completely intact, undamaged, his glasses intact, unscratched, his keys. If Ray fell from 177 feet high, how did his phone and glasses survive without any damage? Experts say it's nearly impossible for a cell phone to survive intact from a 14-story fall onto a solid surface. And yet Ray's phone was perfectly functional. His glasses were also intact. No cracks, no scratches. Oh, and then there's the missing object, the antique money clip Allison had given Ray. The one Ray carried everywhere. It was never found. It wasn't on his body. It wasn't at his house. It wasn't on the roof. It simply vanished. The Belvedere Hotel had an extensive security camera system. But when police tried to review the footage from May 16th, they discovered there was a technical problem. The camera recordings from the days in question could not be recovered. Convenient. The rooftop camera was unplugged. Nobody could explain when it stopped working or who unplugged it. All other recordings had been automatically erased. So there's no video of Rey entering the hotel. No video of Rey on the roof. No video of anything. The only evidence is the hole, the body, and the impossibly intact objects. Phone records showed the last call Rey received came from Agora Publishing Switchboard, the parent company of Stansberry and Associates. But the identity of the caller could not be determined because the call went through a company switchboard. Who called Rey? Why did he leave in such a hurry? Where was he going? These questions were never answered. Porter Stansberry, Rey's childhood best friend and his boss, refused to be interviewed for Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries when they featured the case in 2020. His company advised employees not to speak to the media. Although Porter denied imposing a gag order, investigators reported difficulty obtaining cooperation from his colleague. What? Baltimore police quickly leaned toward one theory: suicide. According to Police Commissioner Frederick Bielfeld, although they found no history of mental health issues or indications that Rey was depressed or distraught before his death, the circumstances and the hard evidence that we have really point to this being a suicide. What circumstances? What hard evidence? The police never publicly specified. The suicide theory says that Rey, for some unknown reason, decided to take his life. He went up to the Belvedere roof, ran and jumped, falling through the lower roof. But this theory has massive problems. Problem 1. Rey had no history of mental illness. He wasn't depressed. He had made plans for the weekend. He was happily married. He was planning to move to Los Angeles to pursue his dream. Problem 2. Nobody saw Rey enter the hotel that night. The Belvedere is a large building with lots of people. Rey was 6'5". He was hard to miss. And yet nobody, absolutely nobody, reported seeing him. Problem 3. To access the roof, Rey would have had to navigate through multiple back stairways and hallways. The door to the roof area was usually locked. He would have needed to know how to get there beforehand. Rey was friends with 2 bartenders who worked at a bar on the 13th floor. They would take smoke breaks on the roof. It's possible Rey knew how to access the roof through them. But still, why didn't anyone see him? Problem 4. If Rey was planning suicide, why rush out of his house after a phone call? Why not leave a real suicide note? Problem 5. The physics. As we already discussed, it's virtually impossible for Rey to have made that jump from the main roof in flip-flops. Despite all these problems, police closed the case as probable suicide. Detective Michael Bayer was one of the few in the police who doubted the suicide theory. Bayer said the scene looked staged. He thought it was strange that Rey's phone and glasses were intact. He thought the hole was too clean and too small for a fall from 14 stories. Bayer believed it was virtually impossible for Rey to make the jump from the roof, especially in flip-flops. But only 3 weeks after beginning his investigation, Bayer was reassigned to another department. He never explained why. He never said if it was by choice or if he was forced. After his reassignment, the investigation quickly went cold. If it wasn't suicide, what was it? Theory 1. The jump from the parking garage. The parking garage next to the Belvedere was approximately 20 feet horizontal distance from the hole. The height from the garage roof to the lower roof was also approximately 20 feet. A jump from the garage to the roof would be much more plausible than from the main roof. But there are problems. First, Rey's injuries were extremely severe. Detective Bayer felt a jump from the garage would have been survivable. Rey's injuries were consistent with a fall from much greater height. Second, to jump from the garage, Rey would have had to climb to the garage roof. Again, nobody saw him. Theory 2. He was dropped from a helicopter. Some people on the internet suggested Rey was dropped from a helicopter. This theory was quickly dismissed. Mikita Brotman, a writer and professor who lived in the Belvedere at the time, noted it would have been difficult to know where the body would land if dropped from a helicopter. Additionally, Belvedere residents probably would have heard or seen a helicopter, regardless of whether an aircraft was cleared to fly that night. A forensic physicist consulted by independent investigators concluded that based on how Rey landed, he took a running jump from a lower height, not dropped from above. Theory 3. Murder and staging. This is the theory Rey's family believes. The theory says Rey was murdered elsewhere and his body was placed in the conference room. Then the scene was staged to look like suicide. The hole was made in the roof, the flip-flops, phone and glasses were placed near the hole. This would explain why the phone and glasses were intact. It would explain why nobody saw Rey enter the hotel. It would explain why the physics doesn't work. But this theory also has problems. How did they move the body into the building unseen? How did they make the hole in the roof? Why choose the Belvedere specifically? And most importantly, who would do it? And why? To understand who might have wanted to kill Rey, we need to understand where he worked. Agora Publishing is a massive company. It's an umbrella corporation that owns dozens of subsidiaries publishing financial newsletters, investment services, and marketing content. Agora is known for aggressive marketing tactics. They sell newsletters promising secrets of investing and insider information that supposedly will make you rich. In 2003, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, fined Agora Incorporated $1 million for publishing false stock information. In 2007, Porter Stansberry's subsidiary, Stansberry & Associates, was fined $1.5 million by the SEC for disseminating false stock information and defrauding public investors. The financial newsletter industry is murky. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of pressure. And there are people who lose a lot of money based on bad recommendations. Ray worked as a writer and videographer for Stansberry & Associates. He wrote financial newsletters. He created promotional videos. But Ray wasn't a financial analyst. He had no stock market experience. He was writing content other people told him to write. In the days leading up to his death, some Agora employees noticed Ray was getting more tense. Some said he had written something he regretted. Others said he was becoming paranoid. What did Ray write? What did he know? We'll never know. The company never released records of his work. No employee from the company has ever spoken publicly about his final project. Porter Stansberry was Ray's childhood best friend. They went to school together. They stayed close for years. Porter brought Ray to Baltimore. He gave him a job. When Ray disappeared, Porter offered a reward to find him. He hired a private detective to lead the search. He urged all his employees and even all his company's clients to contact police with any information about Ray's whereabouts. After Ray's body was found, Porter never gave a detailed public statement. When Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries featured the case in 2020, Porter refused to be interviewed. His lawyer deflected inquiries. The company maintained there was no conflict, no pressure, no incident. But Porter had previously told the press that Ray and Allison had been in therapy and that Ray had psychological issues. Allison rejected these claims as unfounded. Nobody interviewed for the series agreed with Porter's claims. Allison believes these claims contributed to police treating the case as suicide. Why did Porter refuse to speak publicly? Why did he spread information about Ray's mental health that others say was false? What does Porter Stansberry know? Porter's refusal to participate in the Unsolved Mysteries episode led some viewers to speculate about his possible involvement in Ray's disappearance. The episode didn't accuse Porter of any wrongdoing, but portrayed him as an off-screen figure who might know more than he's saying. To this day, Porter Stansberry has not spoken publicly about the case. Now let's talk about the strangest element of this entire case. During the 9 days Ray was missing, his family searched his house for clues that might explain his disappearance. Ray's brother, Angel, found something extraordinary. Behind the family's computer monitor, taped with adhesive, was a folded note wrapped in plastic. Accompanying the note was a blank check from Ray's production company, Saba Productions. The note was strange from the start. It was written in a tiny font. The content of multiple pages was on a single sheet of paper about 7 inches long. It was folded and taped in a hard-to-reach area. Allison says she knows Ray wrote the note the day he disappeared because there were scraps in the trash can. The scraps from cutting the note into 3 shapes weren't in the trash before she left on her trip. The note was turned over to the FBI. The FBI analyzed the note and reached a conclusion. It was not a suicide note. But what was it? Ray's note is one of the most baffling documents in true crime history. It begins like this. Brothers and sisters, right now, around the world, volcanoes are erupting. What an awesome sight. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate. That last line, whom virtue unites, death will not separate, is a Masonic motto. The note continues. That was a well-played game. Congratulations to all who participated. But it was time to wake up. So here I am. What game? Then Ray writes, I'd like to welcome those who accepted our invitations for membership during the game. We couldn't have done it without you. Invitations for what? What membership? The note includes long lists of celebrities who had died, including actor Christopher Reeve and filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. People Ray knew, friends, family, colleagues. Next to these lists was a request to make all these people and himself 5 years younger. Interestingly, according to Allison, Ray omitted several significant people from his life. What? Movies, books, and music that Ray found very inspired and compelling. Many of these films deal with secret societies, mind control, simulated realities, or conspiracies. The game, in particular, is disturbing. In the film, the main character, played by Michael Douglas, jumps from a hotel roof and falls through a glass ceiling into a ballroom. He's saved in a complex series of plot twists. Rey wasn't saved when he fell through the roof of the Belvedere Hotel. Was Rey trying to recreate a scene from the game? Or does the reference mean something else? The note also mentions directors Stanley Kubrick and M. Night Shyamalan. There's an unusually focused list of M. Night Shyamalan films, with the exception of one film, The Others, which was directed by Alejandro Amenabar. The note continues, "I took on the endeavor to find the truth, but not for its own sake. In accepting this quest for the truth, I hope to make myself, with the help of others, into a man worthy and ready to receive it. Members of the council, please note that I will lend careful concentration to the traditional responsibilities." What council? I stand before you a man who understands the purpose and value of our secrets. That's why I cherish them as secrets. Life is a test to see if you can control your spirit. Take care and enjoy the festivities. And it ends with, "Whom virtue unites, death will not separate." The same Masonic motto it began with. Since the note was discovered, there have been countless attempts to interpret its meaning. Interpretation 1. Movie script or creative research. Allison, Rey's wife, believes the note was related to a screenplay Rey was writing. Rey was an aspiring screenwriter. He had just finished Midnight Polo. He was researching for his next creative project. Allison said, "I know where each of those pieces of that note comes from." Maybe Rey was brainstorming. Maybe it was a tone reel or mood reel for a film about secret societies. Rey's brother Angel agrees. He said, "I found the note and it was just a stream of consciousness, nothing more." Stream of consciousness writing is a method authors like Ernest Hemingway have used to tap into the mind of their narrators or characters. It often includes lists, sentences, and monologues as if the author were the narrator or character. Interpretation 2. Code or cipher. Some law enforcement members speculated the note might be a code. It apparently uses some Masonic phrases. Internet investigators have tried to decipher the note in various ways. Some theorized the note's cutouts spell the word help. Others suggested it's written in a code like Gematria, an alphanumeric system used in Hebrew Kabbalah. But when you plug phrases from the note into an online Gematria decoder, you get too many meanings. It's useless without more information. Interpretation 3. Prepared speech. A Reddit user named Sammy Fearless theorized Rey was writing a speech, though not necessarily one meant for Freemasons. The writing is stylized in a way that makes more sense and seems more lucid when spoken. They wrote, "The opening is very dramatic, much like how you'd give a speech. The ending is also dramatic and seems to invite applause from an audience." Maybe Rey was practicing a speech for some event. Maybe for the Masonic Lodge he was considering joining. Interpretation 4. Mental health crisis. Some people have used the note as evidence that Rey was suffering a mental health crisis. The FBI released a report saying they believed Rey suffered from bipolar disorder. But there's no evidence of this. Rey had no history of mental illness. He wasn't in therapy. He wasn't taking medication. Allison and Rey's family completely reject this interpretation. Interpretation 5. Rey knew something dangerous. This is the darkest interpretation. Maybe the note wasn't fiction. Maybe Rey really had been invited to join some kind of group or society. Maybe he had learned secrets he wasn't supposed to know. Maybe the references to the well-played game and the council were real. Maybe Rey was trying to leave clues about what he knew without saying it directly. Writer Dave Troy, who has researched the case extensively, wrote, "I have the sense that Rey had seen or been told things by Porter Stansberry that haunted him and which he wished he could unsee." What did Rey see? What was he told? Not mentioned in the Unsolved Mysteries episode, but Rey had called the local Masonic Lodge on the day of his death to inquire about joining. He had also bought the book Freemasons for Dummies. Rey clearly had an interest in Freemasons. But why? Some have theorized that Freemasons were involved in Rey's death. But there's no reason to believe this, even if one is inclined to believe the many conspiracy theories about Freemasons. It's more likely Rey was researching Freemasons for a screenplay or out of intellectual curiosity. Or maybe someone at Agora Publishing or Stansberry and Associates had talked to him about Freemasons. Maybe he was drawn to the symbolism and mystery. We don't know. Rey's references to movies in the note are fascinating. The game is particularly relevant. In the film, the protagonist falls through a hotel roof just like Rey. In the film, it's part of an elaborate game designed to make him believe he'll lose everything. Was Rey involved in some kind of similar game? Was someone manipulating him? Did they make him think he was in danger? Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut is about a doctor who gets embroiled in a secret society. The film is full of Masonic symbolism and New World Order references. The Matrix is about a simulated reality, about waking up to the truth. Fight Club is about a man who creates an alternate personality and starts a secret underground club. All these films share common themes: secret societies, hidden realities, conspiracies, loss of control over reality. Was Rey trying to tell us something through these references? The FBI analyzed the note exhaustively. Their official conclusion: it's not a suicide note. But they also couldn't determine what it was. They found no definitive coded message. They found no confession. They found no specific threat. The note remains officially a mystery. Rey's disappearance and death devastated his family. Allison was destroyed. They'd been married only 6 months. They were planning to move to Los Angeles. They were going to pursue their dreams together. Now Rey was dead and Allison had no answers. 4 months after Rey's death, Allison called his cell phone every night before going to sleep, just to hear his voice on the voicemail, just to feel some connection to him. I kept calling it to hear it purely because it was one of the best sounds I have ever heard, Allison wrote on her MySpace page. Allison also had tickets to see Pearl Jam in concert with Rey. But without Rey she couldn't bear to go. She decided to auction the tickets and donate the money to the investigation of Rey's death. When Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam's vocalist, learned about the case, he mentioned Rey's death during a concert in Cincinnati and asked the audience to help find answers. But answers never came. Allison eventually moved on with her life. She remarried. She has a family now. But she never got closure. She never got justice for Rey. In interviews, Allison is clear: "I clearly do not believe that he took his own life. I do not believe that, not at all." Angel Rivera, Rey's brother, also believes something sinister happened to his brother. Angel said, "I think someone powerful who lost a lot of money may have killed my brother." Was Rey advising on stocks that went wrong? Did someone lose a fortune based on Stansberry and Associates newsletter's recommendations? In 2007, Stansberry and Associates was fined $1.5 million by the SEC for disseminating false stock information and defrauding public investors. The timing is suspicious. Rey died in 2006. The fine came in 2007. Was Rey involved in the false information? Did he know too much? Was he a scapegoat? We'll never know. Mikita Brotman is a writer and professor who lived in the Belvedere Hotel when Rey died. She saw Rey's missing poster in her neighborhood. She became interested in the case. Over the next 10 years, Brotman followed the case obsessively. She investigated every detail. She spoke with police, with family, with witnesses. In 2018, she published a book titled An Unexplained Death: The True Story of a Body at the Belvedere. In the book, Brotman describes Rey as 6'5" and like an old-fashioned movie idol. While expressing doubt about the suicide ruling, "I feel there has to be something more sinister going on." Brotman exhaustively explored the suicide theory, the accident theory, and the murder theory. Interestingly, Brotman ultimately concludes Rey probably died by suicide. Though she admits when she first heard about Rey's case, she immediately assumed it was suicide. She writes about her fascination with suicides and bizarre deaths. One of her colleagues claims she was obsessed with such study. Brotman admits her fascination might have caused presuppositions when investigating and writing about Rey's case. Despite her conclusion, Brotman's book is excellent. It provides deep historical context about the Belvedere Hotel and its long association with death. The Belvedere has a dark history. Multiple suicides, murders, accidental deaths, natural deaths. The hotel is considered one of the most haunted places in Baltimore. The Belvedere Hotel opened in December 1903. For over 100 years of operation, it has hosted dozens of celebrities, movie stars, athletes, musicians, and presidents. At one point, it was even the tallest building in Baltimore, standing at 188 feet. But it has also been the site of multiple tragedies. 1909. 6 years after the hotel opened, 17-year-old Thomas E. Sutton Jr. checked into the hotel after an argument with his father. He committed suicide by inhaling chloroform. June 1917. A maid discovered blood dripping from under a bedroom door. When hotel staff entered the room, the body of Lawrence Perrin, a local society idol, was found. 1918. A bride was strangled to death in her bridal chambers after being accused of infidelity. Bernice Cheney Webster died at the hands of her new husband, Carlisle P. Webster, who left a note. "I have known the girl I married for nearly 2 years and I could not believe certain things. I have loved her so much, so it is better that we both die together. Carlyle had swallowed poison but was alive when police found him. 1929. William Harvey King Jr. was found dead on the roof of the Belvedere's second-floor sun parlor. It's unclear if he jumped or fell from his room on the 10th floor. That same year, a Yale College student, Lee Miltz Marlowe, jumped to her death from the 8th floor onto the street. May 1936. Two 21-year-old girls got their legs stuck in an elevator shaft and were trampled to death by other hotel guests. 1973. Sam Shapiro was murdered in the then-abandoned Belvedere lobby. Rey Rivera's death in 2006 was the most recent in a long history of tragedies at the Belvedere. Rey Rivera's case remains officially open. In 2014, Columbus police said they were still receiving at least 2 tips per month about the case through the local Crime Stoppers hotline, though none had proven useful. In 2020, after Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries featured the case, there was a surge in tips and public interest. The Baltimore Police Department said they would not reinvestigate without new evidence. No new evidence was offered. No new evidence was collected. The case remains unsolved. In July 2020, Netflix launched the Unsolved Mysteries reboot. The first episode, titled Mystery on the Rooftop, focused on Rey Rivera's death. The episode was viewed by millions of people worldwide. It generated massive social media discussions. Reddit forums dedicated to the case exploded with new theories. Terry Dunn Muir, series producer and co-creator, said in an interview with The Wrap, "We've produced over 1,300 stories in our lives, and I think Rey Rivera is one of the most intriguing and baffling mysteries that we have done." Muir also revealed she had spoken directly with Porter Stansberry, who declined to be interviewed for Unsolved Mysteries, explaining that his company advised employees not to speak to the media. Netflix also released a Google Drive full of evidence from the case, including images of Rey's note, though some parts are blurred, photos of Rey's car, photos of Rey's money clip, photos of the hole in the Belvedere Hotel roof. This Google Drive allowed true crime enthusiasts from around the world to analyze the evidence themselves. To this day, the case remains one of the most discussed episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. It's May 2024. 18 years have passed since Rey Rivera died. If Rey were alive, he'd now be 51 years old. But Rey is dead, and nobody knows for certain how or why. The official cause of death remains undetermined. Baltimore police maintain it was probable suicide. Rey's family believes he was murdered. True crime enthusiasts around the world debate theories online. But after 18 years, no new evidence has emerged. No witness has come forward. No confession has been made. The case remains unsolved. After 18 years of investigation, analysis, and debate, there are some things we know with absolute certainty. 1. Rey Rivera left his house in Northwood, Baltimore, around 6:30 in the evening on May 16, 2006, after receiving a phone call. 2. The phone call came from Agora Publishing switchboard, but the identity of the caller was never determined. 3. Rey's car was found parked near the Belvedere Hotel on May 23. 4. Rey's body was discovered on May 24 in an abandoned conference room on the second floor of the Belvedere Annex. There was a hole in the roof. 5. Rey suffered massive injuries consistent with a fall from great height. 6. His cell phone and glasses were found intact near the hole, which is nearly impossible if he fell from 14 stories. 7. To reach the point of impact from the Belvedere roof, Rey would have needed to run at 11 miles per hour and jump 43 feet horizontally. This is physically impossible in flip-flops. 8. There's no video of Rey entering the hotel. Security cameras failed mysteriously that day. 9. Rey left a strange note full of references to Freemasons, secret societies, and movies about conspiracies. 10. The FBI determined the note was not a suicide note but couldn't determine what it was. These are the facts. Everything else is speculation. And here's what we don't know. Who called Rey that night? Why did he leave in such a hurry? How did Rey enter the Belvedere Hotel without being seen? Did Rey jump from the roof? Was he pushed? Did he fall from somewhere else? How did his phone and glasses survive intact? Where is the money clip Rey always carried? Why did security cameras fail just that day? What does the note mean? Is it fiction or does it contain real clues? What did Rey know? What did he write that might have upset someone? Why does Porter Stansberry refuse to speak publicly? Did Rey die by suicide, accident, or murder? 18 years later, these questions remain unanswered. The honest answer is, probably not. For this case to be solved, we'd need one of these things. 1. Someone who knows something finally decides to speak. This could be Porter Stansberry. Could be someone who worked at Agora Publishing. It could be someone who saw Ray that night but never came forward. 2. New physical evidence is discovered. Maybe Ray's money clip. Maybe security camera footage thought to be lost. Maybe documents from Stansberry and Associates. 3. Someone makes a deathbed confession. Of these 3 possibilities, the first is most likely. The detective on the case believes someone knows something. Someone who was already interviewed is withholding information. Maybe it's Porter Stansberry. Maybe it's another Agora employee. Maybe it's a friend who's afraid to speak. But someone somewhere knows the truth. Rey Rivera left his house at 6:30 in the evening on May 16, 2006. 8 days later, his body was found in an abandoned conference room at the Belvedere Hotel. He had fallen through the roof. But from where? Physicists say it's impossible he made the jump from the main roof. The detective says the scene looked staged. His phone and glasses survived intact. Physically impossible. Nobody saw him enter the hotel. Cameras failed mysteriously. He left a strange note about secret societies, Freemasons, and a well-played game. His best friend refuses to speak publicly. His company was fined for fraud a year after his death. So what happened to Rey Rivera? Did he jump from the roof in an inexplicable act of suicide? Did he have an accident the police couldn't solve? Was he murdered and the scene staged to look like suicide? Did he know something someone wanted kept secret? 18 years later, nobody knows. And that's the real nightmare of this case. Not just that Rey Rivera died under mysterious circumstances, but that he died in a way that defies the laws of physics. A 6'5" man, an aspiring filmmaker, newly married, with dreams of making films in Los Angeles. He received a phone call. He rushed out of his house. And 8 days later, he was found dead in a hotel. And nobody, absolutely nobody, can explain how he got there. It's an impossibility. A man who fell through a hotel roof, but physics says he couldn't have jumped from where they say he jumped. A man whose personal items survived intact from a 14-story fall. A man who left a note about secrets in games and hidden societies. A man who disappeared under circumstances nobody can explain. If you're listening to this and you know anything about what happened to Rey Rivera, Baltimore police are still accepting tips. You can call the Baltimore Police Department at 410-396-3000, or you can visit the official website, Unsolved.com. Even the smallest piece of information could make a difference. It could bring answers. It could bring justice. It could finally explain the impossible. Rey Rivera is still waiting for justice. His family is still waiting for answers. And somewhere is the truth.